Hello and welcome to my garden. I have my cup of cold brew and I've been walking around this morning and I wanted to give you a tour of what things look like now that we're in July. So this is July 1st. I know I'm releasing it a little bit after, but wanted to give you a full glimpse into everything. First off, we have our pollinator beds on the outside. These have some nice butterfly bushes in the center with an array of different wildflowers on the outside. And they've been bringing some beautiful butterflies and really loving pollinators into our space. Once you actually step into the garden, we have these nice metal raised beds, which we've added just along the fencing here. And these are our berry bush beds. We have some beautiful array of bushes in all of these beds. We have 7 of these metal raised beds. So this last one here, we're just using as an extra dirt bed. This way we can put compost and additional potting soil in here to create our own potted plants, which we do sell at our farm stand and have been doing really well. They're also really great if you start things and then you don't want to use everything, we'll put it over there. And I just love having some soil that I can always grab and top off on some beds. And then coming in, we have 2 berry bushes per bed. So we have some different types of blueberries that we have over here. And then along the fencing, I've actually gone ahead and added some beautiful loofah vining bushes. Now, these love to climb, and I've seen some beautiful work where they'll just climb over and droop down. So this is my first time actually growing loofah, and I've had such an exciting process with it. Those are our guineas just walking around, so sorry about that in the background. As you may know, we actually have our coop, our chicken coop, right across the way from our garden, so we can always put garden scraps into our chicken coop and share some of the goodies with them. So they're very close in proximity, and I'll do a little roll tape of how close they are. So these are a little bit more juvenile, our loofahs right here. But as we walk across into these beds, we have a different variety of berries. Blueberries is probably one of our favorite berries at our household. So we have about 4 of those plants. And then in this section, we have a wide variety of some different types of raspberries, blackberries, and we really just picked a few different types. Some have thorns, some have no thorns. We really just wanted to test it out. If we decide we don't like a variety, then we'll probably just take it out and put it into our woods area or along the edge of our property. This way we can still have some food for the birds, but we can always replant something in here that we really like. The reason that we decided to put our berries in bins like this is because I know that berries can just go wild and crazy. So this is a way to kind of contain them in a space. We can always take cuttings from these and put them along the edges of our property, but this really helps us contain everything in our garden. And if there's one type of plant that you want to come back every year, a nice good perennial, but you don't have the space for a fruit tree, I suggest getting berry trees. Back behind me, this is where our coop is. So we actually have a door that goes straight there, and I'll usually fill a nice wheelbarrow with some of the cuttings from our garden, any weeds, any extras, anything that just we don't need in our garden. I'll put it in there and I'll wheelbarrow it out to our coop. This provides our chickies and guineas with some nice garden treats. It will then also help them compost everything, and we do let that compost sit. You don't want to use chicken compost right after they've composted it because their droppings are not the best quality. So you want to let that kind of cool off, and then we'll use it in our garden. So really, really great. It's also nice because at the end of the gardening season, we will open up this door and let our chickens and guineas come in here and have a free range, a free-for-all of the garden. It isn't always the best looking after they've gone in it. They'll create dust baths inside of all of our beds, but I think it's the least we can do. They have so much fun and delight going through the garden that I love to open up that up for them. And some of these smaller pots right here, we have a nice variety. We have a nice little kiwi bush right here, which actually started off like this big from Home Depot. I have a video of planting that I'll link down below, but it's really vined up this kind of nicely. We'll probably have to move this at some point, but just kind of having some fun. We have a nice big back here. This is the one that we call Miss Biggie. So she's doing really good. She's really prospering here. She was inside for a while and we've moved her out and she's just loving life. And then we have some little herbs right here. Oh my gosh. This is a nice lemon balm. Really great, and some tea. Oh my gosh. This smells so good. I think I'm gonna take some of this and put it in a tea later because it's just so delicious. But they're doing really great. And then on this side over here, we have a nice grape tree that is vining up our fencing. We love the ability to vine up our fencing as we've seen with the loofah. I just think it looks super pretty. And this grape tree is about 3 years old. We have a few grapes coming off of it that I can't wait to try. This is actually the first year it's produced so much fruit thus far. So I'm really excited to see what she does for us. Coming into our garden, we have our small 1 foot high boxes that are 4 foot deep and 8 foot long. We love this size. It's really nice and easy for little ones. We have a toddler, and next year he's actually going to be able to do his own beds. We're going to call them the Griffin beds, and we're going to let him plant and test out gardening for himself, see if he likes it. Hopefully he does. But right now these front 2 ones are actually pollinator beds, so they have primarily wildflowers as well as some sunflowers over here. Although they are not looking that great. They were looking super amazing the beginning of June, to be honest, but they're just they're not looking so great because we had a little rabbit go in here, create a nice little nesting box and raise her little ones in there. So a lot of rundownness has happened, as you can tell. We also had our dog find the little rabbits, run around the boxes. So these could be a lot better, but we've been using a lot of these flowers for our own decoration indoor, as well as a really nice box to clip off of and sell at your farm stand, as well as just give to friends. When you go to a nice summer holiday party, you can bring them. We recently went to a barbecue, brought a nice little jar with some of the wildflowers, and it was just such a nice gift. Somebody has done that for me before in the past, and I absolutely love it. So I think it's something you can really share. And anything you can do to bring pollinators and attract them into your garden is going to be really great. So if you can sacrifice a little bit of space in your garden for flowers to bring those pollinators, I definitely suggest. Moving back here, we have an extension of those same short boxes, except for they look disastrous. We had a nice little gopher friend come in here and decide to eat all of our broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage. So we have since humanely caught that groundhog and released him farther away because groundhog was just taking advantage of everything. So we did have to rip out these beds. I was really excited about my cauliflower and broccoli, so seeing them destroyed was really sad. But we did go ahead and give those pulled out items to our chickens, so at least somebody got to enjoy them, Mr. Groundhog and our chickens. And over here, we are going to be replanting. So there are a lot of different things that you can be planting in July in your garden. You have a variety that you can be planting of nice summer vegetables. So things that can still go on during your summer. I think tomatoes, I'm gonna add a list here, peppers, anything like that. But then you also have a nice type of winter crops that can go in, which I'm gonna be adding today, some of those items. And here's a full list of things that you can be adding. Also be planting a wide variety of herbs, which you can see a full list here. And these are gonna be great that you can be getting in the ground now. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get a lot of those crops, but we do have some pumpkins that I planted a little early. They're super large jack-o'-lantern pumpkins, so I figured maybe if I get them in the ground early, they will come right in time to do kind of a September fall look. I may have gotten them in a little too early, but the size of them is looking pretty good so far. And behind that, in these long beds over here, I have a lot of zucchini. I did zucchini and cucumbers as well as pickling cucumbers. We have a lot of cucumber beetles that came and attacked them, as well as some mold and mildew that got to them. So unfortunately, we didn't get too many. I was able to have a bunch of cucumber salads, which was delicious. And then I also made around 2 large size pickling jars. We also grew dill in between here as well, and that has been super great. The dill is just blown up. I'm gonna grab some right now, actually. Oh my gosh, look at these huge dills. They smell so good. I have a few more cucumbers for pickling, so I'm gonna make another jar of my 24-hour pickles. It only takes 24 hours to make, and they're so delicious. You can actually enjoy them in season. And what I like about it is you can kind of test the recipes. Within a day or two, you'll know if you like it or if you want to change things up. I think it's delicious. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. But you can add your own varieties and spices. I'm gonna do another pickling video of what I make today, so definitely subscribe or check out one of the pickling videos below to get a recipe that you might enjoy. Now, we've gotten so many pickles, but like I said, we also have a lot of predators in our garden. Some from Mother Nature, some are cucumber beetles. That being said, this is a great time to add a secondary cucumber crop. So I actually went ahead and seeded my own cucumbers at the beginning of the week, and I'm going to be putting them in the ground. And I've heard that by planting a little bit later in the season, you might be able to beat the beetles and the mildew and mold, because it's going to be super hot while these pickles are coming out. I did have one crop that I planted a little bit later, which we'll get to in just a bit, and that has been super fruitful, and the leaves are looking really great at this point. So I think maybe doing it a little bit later, doing a few different crops, might help beat some of those buggies. Outside of that, I have 2 large 16-foot beds where on the opposite side of the pickles and cucumbers, I did some nice beautiful squash. I've gotten over 67 squashes. Zucchini squashes. 68, because I just picked another. These are crazy. I definitely did too many zucchini plants, but you know, I love zucchini bread. I've blanched a bunch of the zucchini, and I've been selling it / giving it away to a bunch of people. We've made a bunch of money in our farm stand from selling extra zucchinis. I sell them around $1 to $2 per zucchini, and then I've also just been giving them away to neighbors and friends. The old saying of teach a girl to grow zucchini and the whole town will have it is not a lie here. It is so true. All my friends and neighbors have it. And we're also making a lot of zucchini bread, which you can freeze up and eat throughout the fall and winter. Whole family loves it, and so many delicious zucchini recipes. We've been eating zucchini boats, cut in half, fill it in with some nice meats. We've been eating zucchini lasagna. We've been having just sauteed zucchini, baked zucchini. You can eat it in a lot of different forms. Zucchini omelets. The list goes on and on. We've been eating a lot of zucchini. I'm probably gonna turn into a zucchini, but we're really happy with the yields here. And they're really a great crop for anyone that's beginner in gardening. I've found that they're one of the easiest items to grow. Over here is our watering station as well as seeding station. So I have some of my bags of potatoes over here, and I have been hilling them. So basically the process of hilling is once you start to see some of the leaves form, all you do is push them down a little bit, and then you can either add dirt or straw on top of this. What this is going to do is actually promote more potatoes in growing, so that they'll grow within the layers of your bag. So I'll add a little bit more soil on top of this. I'm also gonna just roll up my bag, which is why I love having a bag that is nice and movable here, so that you can easily hill on top of them. Of course though, now my hands are a little dirty, but when you're in the garden, you gotta get into it. Inside of this shaded section, I also have some strawberry plants, mulberry bushes, and our blueberry bushes that we've been propagating. So this is a nice area nice and easy to water. I like to have everything in one section, really easy to water. And then something that I've also been doing is actually starting plants in this section. So I have a plant tray over here. Went ahead, filled it with some soil, and then you can put trays underneath them, you don't have to, and just starting my plants in here. Once they get to a good size, then moving them out into the garden. What I like about this is you can really watch and maintain a lot better when you just have a small section of areas that you're starting your plants. And then once they get bigger and they can take on the garden and the more of the sun, then I can move them out into other sections. And I'll just put this in a small section of my beds so that it doesn't take up too much room. It's getting sun, it's getting water, and it's just really easy to maintain while they're still young. You know exactly where your seeds are, so you're not over watering in your garden. I've also done some smaller pots, and what I like about these is you can actually get them a little bit bigger. For example, this is a nice cucumber, I believe. And when I have extras of these, I will also put these out on our farm stand, and I will sell these for around $2–3 per potted plant. Depending on where you live, you can go up or down in price. Sometimes I just want to get rid of the excess, so I'll mark it down to $2, whereas if earlier in the season, I'll start off around $3, which is pretty comparable to what the big box stores are selling these plants for. In this section of the bed, that's where I do keep all of the potted items. I also I've been doing carrots at the edges of beds. You can see this is a bunch of carrots. I like this because they're just not taking up super large amounts of room. You put them in a nice row, and I do this along some of the rows of the ends of the bed. These are around 4-foot long beds, so you have a few 4-foot rows of carrots, and that's enough to keep you going. I like to keep my carrots for a pretty long time. I've harvested them earlier in the past, and they're just not as big and flavorful as when you really wait till the colder months to get them. So that's when their flavor really comes. I like to keep them in a little bit longer and get nice and big. This bed's also a mosh podge of different things. I started a lot of things from seed, primarily a bunch of different types of peppers, some sweet peppers, some jalapenos, shishitos, and they just take so long to start from seed. I started them from seed around Mother's Day in the ground directly, and they are just starting to come up now in July. So we did also purchase some plants. We got some nice eggplants coming in the center. We still have our peppers along the edges. They're just taking a much longer time to come in than purchasing them already started. I would probably in the future start them a lot earlier just so that they can get to a more substantial size and really be thriving at this time. I have some carrots again in the center, and then at the other end of the bed I have some herbs. Another thing I've been doing with my plants is planting in onions, as well as bunching onions and some sage in different beds in order to really beat some of those bug predators to the plants. So you can see I have onions at the edge of my bed. We love onions here. I planted over 100 onions in our garden this year. Some are doing really well, some are not doing that great, and I would definitely plant them again because I do think that they're cutting down on the bug predators within our garden. It's said that they're supposed to see that smell and go away, and I think it's kind of working. We'll see how it goes this year. Going further back in our garden, we have some nice cherry tomatoes really bushing out here. I've inlaid some basil in between. I love being able to grab some basil and a little bit of tomato and munch them along. Our tomatoes are not super ready yet. They're just still pretty green, but we have the second half of this bed, which I do have some additional basil. I did some nice cucumbers here at the end. This is the one that I planted a little bit later, and they've been doing really, really well. Hopefully it continues on. And then I've done a little eggplant, and this was a cabbage bed. So it was originally garlic. We already harvested that. We have a few good heads. We actually used garlic from the store. So I did not use an organic garlic, and I do think it worked pretty well. I was experimenting a little bit this year. Next year I do want to buy an organic garlic, but I did just purchase one from the store and use the little pieces from that, the cloves from that. Over here though, the cabbage got pretty destroyed from our groundhog, so I am going to be adding some new items in here. Right now there's just some tomatoes scattered throughout. And if we turn over this way a bit, beans over here, so this was lettuce and leafy greens. Those have all kind of been done. They're done, that crop's done. I'll probably put some more in a little later here, but right now we're doing a bunch of string beans. I need to go in and actually pick a bunch of them because they are ready, but we already have so many and we've been eating a lot of those as well. So I'll put in how much of a weight we've gotten in string beans so far. It's been quite fruitful and we love string beans. And then behind here we have some more string beans as well as tomatoes. We did have snap peas in there before, which we've already consumed. If we go to this side, we have a bunch more zucchini, which is why I have so many zucchinis. And then inlaid in between, we have some nice sunflowers. We did not plant these. These actually came up from last year. And in the center of all of these 8-foot by 8-foot beds, we actually have marigolds. Marigolds are, one, very pretty, they're fun, they take a while to grow if you grow from seed, but they do also scare predators away from your gardens as well. I've heard that they're really good for getting deer away, but we do have really high fences that this has not been a problem at all for us. But I do love growing marigolds. This brings us towards the end of our garden. We have 2 8x8 beds, and then on the sides of them, we have 4x8 size beds. Those 4x8 size beds I'm gonna call our sleeping, in just that they're perennial crops. We have asparagus over here, we have strawberries over here, and they're done with their season, but we're gonna leave them in there because they will come back year and year again. Asparagus can come back for around 20 years, and strawberries have a good like 3 or 4 years before you really wanna start something new. So we have those going on there. We're just gonna leave those beds and continue to water them and maintain them, making sure there's not too many weeds, but there isn't too much fun stuff going on there. But behind me, we are doing a really big push on large tomatoes this year. Oh, and with the strawberries, we got over 5 pounds of strawberries from one 4x8 bed. So great strawberries, really great item to be growing, and they come back year over year. But yeah, behind me, I have 2 large tomato beds. We also have a mixture of dill in there. I have watermelon in this one, just climbing along the bottom. I have cantaloupe in this one, just climbing around the bottom. And the tomato variety that I chose was Aroma, and then a big sauce tomato. We really want to capitalize on making our own tomato sauce. I think the tomato sauce that they sell in stores is just really packed with sugars that are really unnecessary. So anything we can do to create our own and be able to store and can for the winter is going to be ideal. We're big red sauce family here, so I really want to make a bunch of sauces. So that's going on here, and then behind that is our little mini orchard where we have fig trees on each side, a lemon, a lime, and a clementine in a center. So we're really focusing on how we can make our garden more of a perennial garden instead of just having to plant everything every year. Obviously, in a zone 7B, you need to plant things over and over. Tomatoes are probably not going to come back next year. They're probably not going to come back for a second season like they would in a warmer climated area. So we're always going to have to plant new things, but we want to also make sure that we're planting things that are going to come back and give us love and love over again. That's why we also started with our chicken coop area a huge orchard of over 20 trees ranging from peaches, nectarines, cherries. We've gotten a lot of great, delicious cherries. Apricots, we're trying guava, we got pomegranates, we got more figs. So we're really trying to expand our perennial garden, our perennial trees. We love fruit at our house and we want to be able to have a lot of fruit here, having those fruit bushes. I definitely suggest that if you're able to grow any types of fruit trees, fruit bushes, to plant them now, and over the years you'll be so happy and thankful that you did. You might not see a good fruitful year or yield the year after you plant it, but you will in the future and you will be so thankful. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll see you again in August for another garden tour. Bye.